I'm Ernie Humphrey, Educational Programs Leader for Performative, the largest online community for corporate finance, accounting, treasury, and related professionals. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar, Leveraging Cloud Technology to Create Strategic Alignment. No financial system can effectively operate in a vacuum. Other business systems need two-way communication with your accounting software to share financial and operational data. Best-in-class integration makes it easy to connect seamlessly and cost-effectively with other applications your company uses today, as well as any applications you will want to use tomorrow. This best-in-class integration approach drives business success by delivering technology that enables and empowers change, as opposed to dictating business practices. Today we'll discover how Intacct, a leader in the cloud financial management and accounting applications, uses open web services to integrate with leading applications for each major business function, enabling best-in-class integration, and seamlessly feeds and receives data to and from other business systems to allow the analysis of both financial and non-financial information. One of our featured speakers will demonstrate specifically how companies of all sizes are leveraging Intacct cloud financial applications to drive better business performance as measured by faster financial close, shortened day sales outstanding, optimized cash management, and a more efficient lead-to-cash cycle. I would like to thank Intacct, whose commitment to thought leadership helps us make this webinar possible and delivered at no cost. A quick note of today's agenda. First, we'll hear presentations from our featured speakers. Then we'll move to our interactive Q&A session, where we will spend the remainder of our hour. We would like this to be an interactive experience for you. So if you have any questions at any time, please go to the questions area in the GoToWebinar control panel and send us your questions. We can't promise to get all of them in, but we will do our best, and we'll follow up afterwards with any questions we did not get to. A few logistical notes about the webinar. A link to today's presentation and video recording of the webinar will be sent out to all attendees within 24 hours of the event. Note today's webinar includes a tech demo, and as such is not eligible for CPE credit. Again, we encourage you to ask questions on today's topic via the questions box in your GoToWebinar control panel at any time during the webinar. Finally, you'll be asked to take a short survey today regarding the webinar. We greatly appreciate your feedback regarding our event today, as we always strive to improve the ROI we offer our event attendees for their valuable time. A quick word about Performative. Performative is the largest online community resource for senior-level corporate finance, accounting, treasury, and related leaders. Performative connects corporate finance leaders to provide instant advice and insights on the tough financial strategic challenges they face every day. Okay, let's get started by introducing today's first speaker, Vijay Ramakrishnan, Director of Product Marketing, Intacct. Vijay is Intacct's Director of Product Marketing, where he helps organizations understand how they can use the cloud to streamline financial management processes and gain new insights to drive business strategies. Prior to Intacct, Vijay was at Taleo, where he helped HR leaders use the workforce data to make their organizations more effective. Through his 15 years of experience in the software industry, Vijay has been focused on how organizations can capture and analyze the right data to optimize performance. With that, it is my distinct pleasure to hand the floor over to Vijay. Vijay, the floor is now yours. Please take it away for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ernie, and I wanted to thank everyone from the Performative community for attending today and taking some time out of your busy day to learn a little bit more about cloud technology, business process automation, and really how you can leverage the cloud to integrate core financial and accounting processes with larger business processes. And that's really the topic that we want to cover today. Just by way of what we're going to be covering and talking about, I want to provide to you a quick introduction to Intacct. The main event today is certainly the demonstration, which John Flum, my colleague, is going to be conducting for you. But before we get to that, just wanted to provide to you a brief snapshot of who we are. Intacct is one of the fastest growing providers of cloud financial management solutions. We've got over 6,000 companies running their core financial and accounting processes on Intacct, and those companies represent a diversity of industries and a diversity of sizes as well. We've got some customers who are quickly growing really beyond their first financial system of record, like a QuickBooks or a Peachtree. We've also got customers that are expanding rapidly into new markets. They're expanding internationally, and we've even got customers who are going public on Intacct and have healthy public businesses where Intacct is the foundation for their financial and accounting processes. We really pride ourselves on customer satisfaction, and we've been able to achieve that customer satisfaction because we're really built for success. We've got some top-tier investors and advisors advising some of the best engineering talent that is building a product that has achieved recognition not just with technology watchers with the industry awards, but has also been acknowledged by accounting experts worldwide. Intacct is the only preferred provider of financial applications recognized by the AICPA. We also help the International Federation of Accountants run their own internal systems and internal financial processes. So with Intacct, you've got a cloud solution that not only has really top architecture, but top functional capabilities and best-in-class capabilities from an accounting and finance perspective. And what's happened in the recent past is that with the onset of the cloud, so the cloud has been really popular in the last 10 years, really picked up steam over the last few years, there's been this long-running debate for people who are aligning technology to business requirements around, as you look at technology, is it better to go for, an all-in-one solution, a suite that covers multiple functional areas within the business, like finance, like sales, like customer service, like e-commerce, or is it better to choose best-in-class or best-of-breed applications for each of those business areas? What has happened is the cloud and the architectures of the cloud have really changed this debate in a very significant way. And the reason they've changed it in a very significant way is integration between applications has gotten a lot more simple. And the other reason this discussion has changed is business has gotten more complex. So, one of the things that you should look at as you consider technology approaches is an all-in-one approach with a suite or integrating best-in-class solutions. And again, very different philosophies and very different outcomes as well. The issue with the all-in-one suite is you're essentially dependent on a single provider for all of your processes, like sales, like financials, and one of the downsides of that is that what you have there is the benefit of a single company's R&D investment. And this really contrasts with a best-in-class approach, an approach that really Intacct really believes in, and we believe in it along with all of our other best-in-class partners, where we give you the freedom to choose the best solutions for each functional area within your business. So picking a best-in-class solution like Intacct for finance, another best-in-class solution for the sales, for manufacturing, professional services. What this does is it allows each of the areas in your business to benefit from best-in-class functionality, because each of these organizations that are providing these best-in-class solutions are really focusing their R&D investment and R&D efforts on the areas that they know best. So you're benefiting from not just one company's R&D investment, but really the R&D investment of an entire ecosystem and much faster innovation as well. And this has really come to fruition for our customers. So we have got customers who have taken over 120 solutions and integrated them with Intacct. Much of that integration has been provided by this ecosystem of partners themselves. Some integration, like the Salesforce integration that John is going to demonstrate for you, has been built by Intacct. So what we have is over 120 best-in-class providers that are enabling our customers to choose the best functionality needed to address company-wide business management needs. And so, and the other nice thing is unlike traditional systems and the way that systems used to integrate with each other in the on-premises world from many years ago, all of the integrations into Intacct are backward compatible. So these integrations don't break or require consulting effort every time a new release comes out. And this is really working for our customers. Over 75% of our customers have seamlessly integrated multiple systems together with Intacct financials. And so part of the reason why Intacct works so well is we work well within the ecosystem of other technology solutions. If you look at what we provide within the area of finance, there's a couple of reasons why within the area of finance we're best in class. One reason is we make business more efficient for our customers. So tremendous amount of process automation, oversight and controls, accuracy and compliance delivered through the Intacct solution. The second reason why folks love us is around driving performance and growth and really having the insights to do that. And so what I want to speak to you a little bit more about is automation before I hand it over to John. And if we look at automation, you can think about automation in a couple of different contexts, right? You can look at it functionally, which is, within the context of finance, what can you automate in terms of a financial process? So that's one lens through which you can look at it. The broader lens through which you want to look at automation is across functions. When you think about an entire business process like quote to cash, how can you automate that effectively, and how can you become efficient, not just within one functional area, but across functional areas? And if you look at the example of the quote to cash process, which is really a business process, when you lack integration, it's a really, really difficult process to manage. There is a lot of manual processes involved here. There's a patchwork of multiple systems, data silos, and spreadsheets. The steps to move data from a CRM system into a finance system to maybe a professional services automation system is fraught with a lot of manual effort, which is slow, it is error-prone, and it's very cumbersome to report on all of this as well. So at the end of the day, what you have is a number of process problems that ultimately have business impact in terms of lack of visibility for sales, customer dissatisfaction, revenue issues, auditing issues, and cash flow issues. So it's not enough simply to automate the functional area of sales or the functional area of finance. What you want to achieve is automation of the entire business process, and you can achieve that automation through integration, through the integration that's made possible by cloud-based technology. So if you look at a lot of our customers, they've been able to automate this quote-to-cash process by integrating a best-in-class CRM solution like Salesforce with a best-in-class financial solution like Intacct. So essentially what you have is the process is streamlined from the point of entering the quote to contract approval to all the way through to revenue recognition. So it's really a pre-integration with Salesforce that allows you to achieve that. It transforms everyday tasks by eliminating data re-entry. It integrates rules and controls and automation for things like revenue recognition, billing, and order processing. And ultimately, it gives you less rekeying and higher accuracy. So what you have is access to an integrated, automated business process, which has a significant number of business benefits. Not only do you have better data and faster processes, you have improved customer satisfaction because you have consistent customer data throughout your systems. You have the opportunities for increased revenue. You have audit quality data because you've really eliminated much of the manual processing, and you have improved cash flow as well. So just really briefly, wanted to share an example of a company before I hand it over to John. Virtual Hold Technology is a customer of Intacct. They're a provider of virtual queuing solutions to Fortune 100 call centers. They had the classical issues around the lack of automation around the business process of quote to cash. They had customer service employees that lacked visibility into customer payments. They had sales lacking visibility into invoicing. They had the entire organization lacking visibility into true customer value. So not only was that lack of visibility there, but there was a tremendous amount of manual effort and ad hoc work for finance. They were consumed by requests from customer service or sales for information about customer status. When it came to revenue recognition around what they sold, all of that was driven by an entirely manual spreadsheet-based process. And what they did was they switched to business process automation by bringing in Intacct and integrating it into the Salesforce.com. So they had an integrated quote-to-cash process. They were also able to automate revenue recognition. They were able to go directly from opportunities to booked orders without rekeying. no manual reconciliation between order data across sales and finance, much better visibility into customer status. And they worked with an independent research firm called Nucleus Research to quantify the benefits of this integration, to quantify the benefits of this business process automation. And what they found was through the automation, through the better visibility, that virtual hold technology was able to achieve a very tangible ROI of 158%. So with that brief survey, what I wanted to do now was to hand the session back over to Ernie and really segue into John's demonstration of the technology solution around integration.
So, thank you very much, Vijay, for your great content and your insights. It's now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker who will take us through the Intacct demo. John Flum, Solution Specialist, Intacct. John is a CPA with 13 years of experience implementing and selling financial management systems focused primarily on the software and professional services vertical market. He has been with Intacct about 3 years as a project manager implementing Intacct for their direct customer base and is now a sales engineer in their direct sales organization. Prior to Intacct, John worked for Deltek and Softrax, where he held similar roles he has filled at Intacct. He has particular experience in the areas of revenue recognition for the software industry and project accounting. John also has experience selecting and implementing a variety of finance and ERP systems while holding roles of controller and finance manager. Relying on his past experience, John's primary focus at Intacct is on demonstrating the value of their best-in-class cloud accounting software to prospective customers and partners.
Thank you,
I'm
Ernie.
going to go. With that, I'm going to go ahead and hand the floor over to John. John, please take it away for us.
All right. Thank you very much, Ernie and Vijay, for that. As noted today, I'm going to take you through the Salesforce.com connector to Intacct, which is using our open web services that Vijay had highlighted the advantages to you previously. This is a tool that is developed and deployed directly by Intacct, as opposed to some of those that Vijay mentioned, a number of which are created directly by our partner. The Salesforce.com Intacct connector has been one of our flagship products that we've been offering to our customers, with the real goal of improving efficiency, reducing the redundant efforts, reducing the errors that come with rekeying data, but also keeping the entire user community within a company tied into key relevant financial data so that we're able to deliver relevant real-time information to the decision makers when they need it and where they need it. Particularly in the realm of Salesforce.com, as the slide will illustrate, taking that information from the CRM, we're allowing Salesforce to do the best of what it's built for, feeding on Vijay's comment earlier on the cloud wave is a best-in-class wave. So we're allowing the Salesforce.com community to utilize that tool to the best of its ability, and at the time that's relevant, have the finance community be able to take the data that's specific to them, turn that around into viable invoicing, revenue recognition, and other related data based on their Intacct workflows and to be consumed by those communities. So what you'll note here is that we're allowing the functions that go around having a customer and owning that customer within your CRM solution to allow the sales teams and other customer account management folks to manage leads, create opportunities, go through the quoting to order phases, even potentially take care of fulfillment, and have all these processes tied back directly into Intacct. But it's not just a one-way flow of information that we're taking the process over from the sales and customer account management users into finance, and that's where the flow of data stops. The relevant data can then be pushed back into Salesforce as well, again using the same open web services API infrastructure, so that as the finance team then takes over the pieces of the contract, the engagement related to invoicing, revenue recognition, order status, status of an account overall, that that information can also be fed back into Salesforce so that that community has the most real-time relevant data to allow them to continue to mine their existing customer base for future potential revenue, for upsell opportunities, for new sale opportunities as new offerings come out. This way the users are able to go in, self-service that information instead of having a back and forth offline flow of communication with a finance group that's prone to either leaks, breaks, incorrect or incomplete information. We're now allowing the user to self-service that information directly through Salesforce with real-time relevant data from Intacct. If I go ahead and switch over into my Salesforce environment, we'll go ahead and touch on a few of the ways that Intacct is making this possible. I'll start by saying there's a number of key touch points between Salesforce and Intacct that we'll leverage, and it really gets to the main questions about who did we sell to, what did we sell them, when did we sell it, how much did we sell it for, and so on. And so when we look at those objects and we think about those pieces of data, we're talking about our accounts in Salesforce. Salesforce being the CRM system will manage a number of different accounts at a number of different stages. These could be anywhere from early phase prospects that we're still qualifying to qualified leads all the way through long-time existing customers. The Intacct solution allows us to only bring over those accounts that we need to at the time that they're relevant to the finance system, maintaining all the remaining data within Salesforce as it works towards that hopeful end goal of turning into a live customer. So we'll see that these accounts can be pushed over and become customers. As that account lifecycle in Salesforce continues down the path of quote to opportunity, and we get an opportunity that has reached a stage of being closed won and something that is now ready for the finance system to take that over, that opportunity can be fed into the Intacct order entry system. Once in the Intacct order entry system, we're now leveraging the full power of Intacct, our best-in-class invoicing, revenue recognition, order entry capabilities. These are highly customizable to the end user to suit their needs, but the idea being we're starting that information off with exactly what is resident in Salesforce, what has been quoted and agreed to with the customer without the passing of physical paper, without the rekeying efforts of staff, thereby, again, reducing redundant data entry, speeding up the process to be more efficient, more effective. That's better not only for us internally, but also for the end consumer who is being sold to. Those opportunities are leveraging products within Salesforce for what is being sold, and those products are directly tied back to an inventory, an item master list within the Intacct system. We do give the flexibility that item master, those product masters, can be managed by either Intacct or Salesforce and kept real-time and relevant as products are added, changed, deactivated, pricing updates, whatever the case might be, that information is flowing back and forth through our open web service, real-time and relevant. We have a fourth tie-in as well, related specifically to the idea of managing projects and project accounting, which is that if an opportunity is also going to be related to a professional services type engagement, the project can also be initiated with the opportunity, thereby not only including the finance team, but also possibly bringing into the workflow a professional services team so that they know what projects are upcoming, what projects need to be staffed, and they can go ahead and pick that process up in Intacct as well, all originated from a single central source within Salesforce.com. The users within Salesforce do not need to be users also, full use user or a licensed consuming user within Intacct. The API allows us to leverage the best of Intacct without, as you grow your sales organization or your account management organization, to be in the need of additional licenses for that as well. So with that, I'll actually start to take you through and show you a bit of the integration in action. What I've got up here on my screen is an overall customer record. Now this happens to be a customer that is already an active Intacct customer, and I wanted to do that to show you a number of the different elements that we're presenting related to the process of the open integration and how it actually functions and allows users to see varying data. So our customer here, Intelligent Audit, they've been a customer of ours for a number of years. And as transactions occur for them, both in Salesforce and Intacct, we're using this as one central repository to be able to view that information and self-service it. So that if I am a sales representative who's responsible for Intelligent Audit, or I have an opportunity to upsell them for a new product, I can come in and take a look and see exactly what we've been doing with that customer, as well as where they are in a position financially with us. Do we have outstanding balances that we need to contend with? Do we have invoices that I need to discuss possibly? I can pull up those invoices and just get some helpful information to insight of the past. So not only are we going to see that this information that originates in Salesforce as my customer, as my account, becomes my customer in Intacct for transacting, but that data is also flowing back from within Intacct into Salesforce. And so the user experience of viewing this record allows me to come down and see some of their past activity. So this account, I can look and see some of their past sales order activity that we've had. So I see we had some activity in January and in April of earlier this year. I also see that we've been invoicing over the course of time as well. And again, in the vein of being self-service and allowing the user to not have to go outside of a single point of data and request information relevant to an account, this information is self-serviceable. So if I'm going to pick up the phone and speak to Intelligent Audit today, maybe I'll want to just pull up and see their most recent invoicing activity. I can pull this up. I see not only a Salesforce.com view of this, but with clicks of a button, permissions that can be controlled by Salesforce, workflow and user roles and permission setup, I can determine who has access to what, but my user can now go ahead and pull up and actually see this record within Intacct. Not only can they actually see it, depending on rights, they may have the ability to take action against it, but they can also reprint an invoice directly as it would have existed or been viewed and sent and delivered to the customer out of Intacct. So I can go ahead and pull this information up, all running relevant real time from within my Intacct environment. And so here's my PDF copy of that invoice that would be available for me to save or email to that customer or just have handy for viewing. And that applies not only to our invoice records as we noted, but also if we go back to our account here in, excuse me one second, we go back to our Intelligent Audit account. As mentioned, that's not only our sales invoices, but that's also our orders. And we'll take a look at this flow from beginning to end as well. To begin that process, if we were to take a customer that hasn't been currently synced over to Intacct, perhaps Edge Communications is a customer who is going to be newly synchronized over into Intacct because perhaps we're close enough to close a piece of business with them or we're on the verge of it. The configurability of the web service API between Intacct and Salesforce not only moves over some core basic information, but the solution is extendable as well. So while the basics of an account will become our customer in Intacct, things like their name and their phone number, relevant billing addresses, you may be capturing a number of key attributes about an account in Salesforce that may also be relevant over in your finance management system, and you might be able to utilize for reporting. In this instance, we'll see a few fields on our customer here, things like their ticker symbols, the types of ownership of the company, number of employees, estimated annual revenues. These might be some key metrics as we want to analyze our future ongoing sales and revenue data across a number of these values. Using the power of the Open API, not only do I have the ability to bring over all those fields that are standard to the integration, But each individual customer, directly within Intacct, we give you the opportunity to create additional mappings of data. This is not modifying the core programming code of the Open API. It's just purely extending for this particular instance of the Intacct Salesforce.com connector. So I can mirror all of those fields that existed within my Salesforce instance, ownership, annual revenue, number of employees. I can mirror those as additional custom fields within Intacct. And then as data is flowing back and forth between the two systems, I now have it real-time and relevant in both, and therefore allowing me to leverage the reporting and analytical capabilities of both tools around that data as needed. Once this account has been verified as being ready to be synced over to my finance management system over in Intacct, the process of doing so is in the hands of the user who's responsible for verifying the data that's been entered into Salesforce. So we can go ahead, take a review of this customer, make sure that the information we have is all up to date, real time, and correct. And when I'm ready, I can go ahead and synchronize to Intacct. The integration will be initiated, and I'll receive back a notice of either success or failure. We'll note here that it says customer 10037 Edge Communications updated successfully. And now if I were to come and look at, if I were to come and look in my Intacct system, I'll actually see that I have a mirror record for customer 10037. That record has now been updated and created with Intacct, mirroring those same values that we saw before, such as our ownership, our annual revenue, our employees, industry types, those values that are key and relevant to community of users. Now, taking that further, once we've established that relationship between the customer and the account in Salesforce, as I already showed you, pieces of data will flow back and forth, but that's first going to require me to say what happened around this initial sale. As I mentioned earlier, one of the other key points of intersect in our two systems is the ability to take our closed-won opportunities from within Intacct and push those over into in Salesforce and push those over into Intacct. So again, going back to our previous, our legacy customer of Intelligent Audit, similar data to what was visible on their account, I can also see specific to any given opportunity. So if this was one specific opportunity that existed for Intelligent Audit amongst many, the data that was on the customer is for the customer as a whole. If I need to get more granular and see only what was specific to one given opportunity, that same information is also viewable and available to me directly from the opportunity from which it originated. As it relates to new opportunities that are going to be synchronized over into Intacct, where I can then pick up my workflow, if we take another of our existing customers, perhaps been verified, this may be an opportunity that is now ready to be synchronized over to Intacct as we just closed it and won the business today. Consistent with what we've seen previously, there'll be a series of buttons across the top where I can go ahead and create the different types of documents that are required by me over in my Intacct system. This is configurable to you as you configure your Intacct workflow. And we'll take a look and see some of those Intacct workflows in a moment, but you're not locked into just one or two transaction types. Intacct is highly configurable, and you can define the workflow or workflows that make the most sense for you and for your company. Similar to our account synchronization, the user responsible for maintaining the data flowing between Salesforce and Intacct can come into Salesforce, possibly triggered by a Salesforce workflow that's notified them that this opportunity is ready for finance review and ready for financial management input. They can come in and review the products that were sold, any specific terms that were given, any individual prices. and just maintain, make sure that the information has been maintained properly. When they're satisfied that this record is ready to become an Intacct transaction, we go ahead and we can click our Create Sales Order. This again is going to launch the Intacct integration that we saw when we looked at the account, but what we'll notice here is it's going to give me another level of input. Not only has this started to send the data over, but it's brought me directly into Intacct via Salesforce, where I can not only just verify the information that I'm integrating over, but if I need to add to it, append, correct, if I have processes that are going to be very specific to Intacct that I'm not accounting for in Salesforce, the user at that time can go ahead and take those actions directly here in Intacct. One thing, for example, might be currency. My development environment here for Salesforce doesn't happen to be multi-currency enabled where my Intacct instance is. So I'm going to go ahead and fulfill the requirement by Intacct of saying what is the currency of this transaction. However, all of the other relevant data I passed through from Salesforce is now here for me without having to get that contract, get a copy of it, rekey it, pull up dual monitors, however that process flow may have been. Not only is the data being pushed in from Salesforce, in some cases data may be derived directly from within Intacct. So nowhere in Salesforce, for example, are my products maintaining information about my revenue recognition method. So for these two products, I may have determined that my typical process for recognizing revenue is straight line across 12 months. Now that data was brought in as a joint process of the integration to merge with the Salesforce data, but is appendable by me here if for some reason this particular contract were different and if I wasn't passing that in directly from Salesforce. So I could go ahead and take the action to modify this, or I can just add the information that might be required. So perhaps this is a new subscription that we're going to go ahead and start our revenue process on November the 1st, being that this is an October sale, and that's when we would expect fulfillment. When the user is satisfied that the record that's being brought over into Intacct is correct and ready for posting into our Intacct system, they can go ahead, post that record. Again, it will write us back a confirmation that sales order 15 was successfully created. And now back in Salesforce, if I refresh this opportunity record, we'll note that not only did I push this information from Salesforce into Intacct, Intacct wrote that information directly back to my Salesforce instance. And again, similar to how we viewed the invoice from the account, this user now has the full functions of the Open Web Service API serving up the data that's relevant to them to consume within their Salesforce environment. Now back in Intacct, that document, that sales order, which has now come over through that API, is now serviceable for the rest of the finance process. So the sales order that I brought in, I would now actually see in Intacct for taking through the process of sales invoicing, generating revenue recognition, or whatever my workflow that I define to be is. And again, these are all definable workflows. These are specific to this instance. And you get to pick and choose as a part of the setup of the Salesforce.com connected into Intacct, which of these are to be fed back to Salesforce. If you determine that I don't want information about revenue contracts, perhaps, as a document to be pushed back into Salesforce through the integration, you can say, I'll send over all information other than that revenue contract. We'll see a number of different types of invoices that we have the ability to issue. Again, all of those may be specific to Intacct workflows from how we want the accounting flow to be managed, but we get to determine that those go back to Intacct. And not only can I send over the invoice information, but what also might be relevant and is a configurable option to you is the payment information on those invoices as payment is received can also be brought back into Salesforce, and therefore consumable by the Salesforce user as well. What all of this leads to is having the information relevant, real-time, efficiently back in Intacct which therefore makes it far more consumable to the decision makers within our company, leveraging Intacct's best-in-class flexible matrix reporting. I can deliver on that information that's been synced over into Intacct into reports, into dashboard information, into notifications out to my end user community for what it is that they need to be seeing. Just to refer back and really to tie back to the slides that you even saw previously, what Intacct is doing is taking a disjointed, multi-party process prone to errors, prone to delays or inefficiencies, and making it far more streamlined by automating that data through a simple-to-maintain web service API. Just to reiterate what Vijay mentioned, not only is that API keeping the data relevant now, Intacct guarantees that integration will be maintained from release to release seamlessly to the end user. So as new releases of Intacct come out over the course of the year, nothing is required for you to maintain your existing integration. Perhaps it may expand on it if there are new features or functions that are put into either Intacct or Salesforce and made part of the integrator. But over the course of a standard release, the Salesforce.com connector to Intacct using the open web services is a maintenance-free process for your finance and or IT personnel. With that, I'll turn it back to Ernie and open things up for any question and answer that we might have.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that great content. Again, we'll go ahead and start our Q&A session. So we'll go ahead and start the Q&A session. First question is going to be for Vijay. Vijay, can you give us some examples of some of the operational or business metrics that your customers are using at this point?
Sure. I think that I'll come back to the example that we really focused on today, which was the quote-to-cash process and the customer information and the customer data. One of the things that is fairly easy and straightforward to do in Intacct is to look at metrics by different dimensions, dimensions that really drive your business. And so a lot of our customers who are looking at everything on a customer basis. They look at primarily at the top level. They may look at P&L overall on a customer basis, especially when it comes to projects, right? And so we have a lot of customers who are in project-based businesses, and they have the ability to look at profitability, on a project-by-project basis, and profitability on a customer-by-customer basis as well. And so, at a high level, P&L statement is sort of one of the core, core statements that you look at from a financial perspective. But when you begin to look at that financial statement across these different dimensions, you develop, a different kind of business understanding of which customers are driving your business or which products are driving your business. So that's a fairly common example of, taking kind of a core financial report and looking at it in different ways to, inform, the directions in which you want to take your business.
Okay, great. Our next question, Vijay, I'll start with you, and John, you can please jump in as well. Can you tell us some of the other systems that Intacct can integrate with, for example, other CRM systems or some of the other key applications that people are using?
Sure, I'll take that. There's any number of systems, and I'll just refer the person who asked the question to the deck, which you'll be receiving a copy of. If you go back to a slide that I presented earlier in the session, there's an entire ecosystem. So whether you're talking about CRM and things like Salesforce, Sugar CRM, whether you're talking about budgeting and planning, solutions like adaptive planning, host analytics, whether you're talking about really any kind of function or business process that touches finance, you're going to find a solution there that does that integration. So payroll systems, fixed asset systems, those kinds of things. So the list is too many to remember. So definitely want to take advantage of that slide that is going to be emailed to you as part of this deck. Okay, great. BJ, I think I'll start with you, and then please ask John to jump in as well. Can you give us a sense of how Intacct secures the privacy of the data? And then kind of a related question to that is this data is being passed back and forth between all these systems? Is there data security risk as that data is going back and forth? Is the security as strong as the weakest link? Or how does that whole data security work in an integrated system such as this? So, John, I'll take a first pass at this, and if you want to add anything from a technical perspective, feel free to do that. In the general sense of data security, what we have are really a published set of standards around the types of technologies that we use, the types of encryption that we use, and the measures that we take around the way we maintain and operate our system that outline specifically what we're doing. So you have full transparency into exactly what it is we're doing from a process perspective, and a little bit more from a technology perspective, and the efforts that we take, around security. And so, when it comes to integration of systems, you have those kinds of specifications. When it comes to functionality within the application itself, there are various kinds of permissions you can assign to different kinds of users to make sure that you have ensure things like segregation of duties and things like that. So at a top level, that is how we handle security issues. And I don't know if you have anything specific to add to that, John.
Yeah, just to add, Intacct is a true multi-tenant architecture, which means that each individual company and client of ours has a unique company ID, as well as usernames and passwords underneath that company ID. That data security also applies to messages that are passed through our gateway. So as data is sent from one system to another, what is passed along with it is that secured company ID along with a username and password to secure the data within. And so only verified username, password, company ID combinations can access it. Also, I think just to expand somewhat on what VJ started to hit on was, we do have different levels of security as well. Not only can you specify just a username and password, you can also, both in Salesforce and in Intacct, you can specify certain IP address ranges. So if the only IP addresses that should be allowed to communicate are perhaps within your VPN, you can specify that a user has to be coming in from a particular IP range or multiple ranges in order to secure that transmission.
Okay, great. I think I'll direct my next couple questions to John, as they're kind of function related. John, as far as the reporting goes, are there reports within Intacct, say for example, for your example, you actually synced up a customer record. Are there reports within Intacct that you can get by user that shows who is transferring those records over, with Salesforce and also the other applications?
Yeah, so within Intacct specifically, as well as within Salesforce, there are reports about who it is that actually initiated or created or updated a record. So there is a full audit trail that is available within Intacct. That you can look at the history of a record and you can see who it was that was responsible for creating or appending it, and those are some standard reports.
Okay, great. Another question for John. This may be a little technical, but someone's got some kind of technical question. So as far as when it gets that opportunity, so it gets that opportunity and it's syncing over to Intacct. Is that actually creating what I might call a customer master record, and how are people using that to create customer master records and manage those parent-child relationships within Intacct via Salesforce as well?
So the process actually is a little bit split in the sense that you've got your accounts which sync over and do create a master record within Intacct that is actually a formal customer record. When we then create that opportunity, the first piece of validation that happens is, do we have a synchronized customer? If the account had not been synchronized over to being an active Intacct customer yet, the syncing of the opportunity would return the user an error message saying that this account has not yet been synced, and that process would have to be completed. And so that does establish a specific record within Intacct that again, similar to what we saw with the opportunity, that customer record could be amended and appended specifically within Intacct if there's Intacct relevant or Intacct only relevant data that you wanted on that customer that you didn't want reflected in Salesforce. So the records are truly in fact established in both systems.
Okay, great. Thanks, John. This might also be a question for you, John. What maintenance is involved in open APIs that communicate with other cloud-based applications? So for example, let's say that Salesforce.com has an upgrade. Is there any possibility for that API for Intacct to break in some way?
I guess I'd never say never, except that we do closely maintain that. The core functions of the API are based on really core central objects, both within Salesforce and within Intacct. Now, if Salesforce were to go ahead and make database changes, those are also things that our people stay on top of and make sure that as we release a new version of Intacct, or if there's a key function that comes out within Salesforce, that API as a standard offering is maintained along with that. At no time do we have multiple versions of a single core piece of integration API code, so the maintenance is minimal to none to the end user.
Okay, great. This question I'll direct to Vijay. Vijay, can you share with us any trends that you may be seeing by industry or company size regarding the adoption of Intacct and or the adoption of multiple cloud systems to create an ecosystems as you discussed?
Yeah, I think that what's really driving adoption of Intacct amongst our customer base in general is just growth. So a lot of companies here that turn to us are growing very quickly, and one of the things that growth is causing is increased transaction volumes, and so wherever there's lack of automation within the financial process or lack of automation within the business process, they're turning to a cloud solution like Intacct that can automate the financial process, but also a set of integrated cloud solutions that work with Intacct so they can automate the business processes overall. So roughly speaking, anywhere where you see growth, whether there's an industry or whether it's for your particular company, growth is really what's pushing people to us and what's pushing people to integrate us, with other cloud solutions. Okay, great.
Kind of a related question, Vijay. Are companies, let's say larger companies, or some of the larger companies that are making acquisition, maybe converting those acquisitions first on Intacct and then potentially rolling that back up to the parent once they're comfortable with it at all?
I'm sorry, John, could you repeat the question? I heard more of a statement there than a question. Yeah. I think I misheard.
Okay, sure. In terms of the adoption of Intacct, are some of the larger companies maybe rolling that out at companies they've acquired and then maybe rolling that back up at all to the parent on a larger scale?
Oh, absolutely. We have got so many customers that are running multi-entity organizations within Intacct Actually, I was just going over some statistics we have here internally, and the typical customer on Intacct has on average about 5 entities that they're managing with Intacct. So it's a very common scenario to be a distributed organization running on Intacct, where you're tracking, financials on a very granular basis, on an entity-by-entity basis, and then you're rolling that up as well. And we have customers that are constantly adding entities as well, through organic growth or through acquisition. It's a very straightforward process. We have our customers adding entities really in under an hour, and so a very straightforward process to do. And of course, as I said, going back to my earlier question, earlier discussion on growth, very common scenario, in growth kinds of situations to grow out to multiple entities or to add entities organically or through acquisition.
Okay, great. I guess I'll start with John here. Is Intacct also integrating with on-premise systems as well as cloud solutions, or is that a case-by-case basis? Are customers doing that as well?
They are. As Vijay mentioned, there's an entire ecosystem of partners that we are integrating with, and we do have the capability for that data to come from either cloud or on-premise. Now, in some cases, those may be a prepackaged integration like the one we saw today with Salesforce, but our architecture, our web services, and our platform architecture really do allow users to basically create integrations to most any system where the data can be extracted and made relevant, and then passed through that open web service. So certainly.
Okay, great. Thank you. For the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and ask one final question for Vijay, then we'll make some closing comments. Any questions that we did not get to, we will follow up with the speakers afterwards and the attendees. Vijay, can you give us a sense of what's next in terms of the functionality for Intacct?
Sure, I could definitely do that. We are making about 4 releases every year. So, there are constantly a steady stream of innovations. We're able to innovate fairly quickly because we have a cloud architecture. We can pour all of our R&D resources into building functionality as opposed to, building out the same functionality on multiple hardware and software platforms. So there's just a lot of efficiencies that we get from our architecture that allow us to innovate and keep the pace of innovation fairly high. Now, with that backdrop, where you're going to see deeper innovation from Intacct is really around those core 2 reasons why our customers like us today, and that has to do with automation and that has to do with insight. I think in the future you're going to see us really push the envelope in terms of the ease with which customers can get access to not just financial metrics, but operational and business metrics as well. We're going to continue to invest in that area. We're going to continue to invest in automating financial processes, bringing more and more things outside of the realm of spreadsheets and outside of the realm of paper and into the realm of a cloud solution. So I will just share that in very general terms. And of course, for our customers, we do have a mechanism for sharing much more granular, forward-looking product information as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Vijay. With that, I'll go ahead and close our Q&A session. Big thank you to Vijay and John for their time and insights. They're clearly thought leaders in their field and an excellent source of information on today's topic. Note in the post-webinar survey you'll be asked to take right after we end the webinar, you'll have the opportunity to express your interest in being connected with either of them and our sponsor, Intacct, with just one or a few clicks of your mouse. Again, a thank you to our sponsor today, Intacct. And finally, a thank you to our audience. We very much appreciate your valuable time. We hope to see you again soon at another Performative event or online at www.performative.com. Make the rest of your day great, everyone.